you are recording.
Yeah.
Yay.
Did that earlier, so I didn't forget to do that. And welcome to Coffee Connect. This is the online networking group that we do from 10 to 11 a.m. on Eastern time on Tuesday mornings. Rodney Chronister is our fearless leader. He's on vacation, touring the world. So he's asked me to help run the meeting. I was catching with people who are new to Coffee Connect. We got a couple new people today. Let's see if this works. Ooh, it didn't go where I wanted it. Let's try, but it would be better if I actually started at the first slide rather than the last slide, wouldn't it? So do we have any celebrations or announcements that anybody would like to share with the group? You can unmute and let us know. Anybody got any good news they want to let us all in on?
This is Brian Jorgensen. I'm the new guy, and again, hi to the speaker, Jim. Jim and I go way back. Anyone on the call, you're gonna love whatever Jim presents. He's just absolutely professional and has a lot of good info. So part of that announcement is kudos to Jim. Great to have you out in the circuit. And for me personally, this week I'm celebrating my 40th wedding anniversary.
Ooh, congratulations.
Well done.
Thank you.
Good job.
Well, you got the haircut for it.
Is that voluntary?
Good job to her.
Yeah,
my dad used to say you get less for a life sentence.
Right. I got a haircut, but it's not the one my wife likes. So I kind of goofed on that, but I'll make it up for her.
Well, happy anniversary. That's terrific news. This is a chance for us, for the new people, to do some introductions. And Brian, as long as you're here, do you want to do a brief intro about who you are, where you are, who you solve problems for, and what a good introduction for you might be?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving. It's hard to hit the right button here. Yeah, so I'm Brian Jorgensen. I live in the Minneapolis, St. Paul metro area in Minnesota. I have a long background in medical device industry and life sciences. About a third of my career has been in contract design and manufacturing organizations, some small, some very large, and then about a third has been within larger medical device companies like Medtronic, Boston Scientific, Abbott, Becton Dickinson, and primarily in engineering and new technology development and technology foresight and forecasting is my passion, and I bring new technologies to a lot of the companies that I work for. Does that cover it?
Perfect.
And currently, yeah. Oh, more importantly, I'm currently looking for a job. So I was recently released as part of a major restructuring, and so now I'm out in the hunt again.
Good.
All right. Do you want to stay in Minnesota, or are you looking more globally?
I am able to do global.
Okay. All right. Are you going to stop at Toby's on the way up to Duluth, or are you just going to blow by it?
Toby's will be part of the weekend festivities. Okay. So my waistline couldn't stand too many Toby visits. Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Hinckley Toby's, it's the world's best caramel pecan fresh baked rolls, and their food is really awesome. So it's hard to get a table there sometimes, but it's in the middle of nowhere.
And I know about it because my family's from the area. My wife's family's from the area.
Okay.
Godfrey, are you able to take yourself off of mute and tell us a little bit about your connection to this group, what you're looking for? If not, we can come back to you later. Tell you what, I'll give you a chance to do it as we progress. So we're going to, I want to make a note. When you meet people at Coffee Connect, if you would like to have a further conversation with them, please share your contact information in the chat and follow up with people to schedule a one-to-one, do a deeper conversation than what you just get in these little 5-minute breakout times. That's how you grow your network. All right, we have 2 Godfreys. And Rodney has set a goal of getting, I think it was 100 new people into Coffee Connect this year. We've got 22. Actually, after today, we'll have 24 new people, and I will update the little thermometer later on.
Hi.
Are you on here twice now, or is this another Godfrey? Godfrey? Hello?
This is the same Godfrey.
Okay. I don't know
Actually,
if you heard.
my network dropped just at this. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I was going to give you a chance to give a little introduction about yourself. If you want to take that right now, tell people who you are, where you are, what you're looking for.
Sure. I'm Godfrey Mudariki. I'm connecting from Zimbabwe, Africa. That's southern region Africa. We often get confused for South Africa. But we are a very small teapot-looking country, which is Anglophone, formerly colonized by the British. So I'm 41, and I work in the public health space. So my background is in health education and promotion, international health policy and management. So currently working within the public health space, the non-profit space. But I also have ventures of interest on the for-profit side. I've got a registered condom that comes in 4 sub-brand types. So I'm trying to network towards growing that venture locally on a for-profit basis. But otherwise, I do serve the vulnerable, the people who can't afford most of their basic services through public health from a health perspective, mostly trying to intertwine a little bit of climate change into it. And a bit of other the issues of social care as much as they affect the vulnerable. So I'm not hands-on. I facilitate for people who then do it. So I'm more high level. For example, currently I'm working with a British embassy in Zimbabwe to facilitate partnerships between Zimbabwe and the UK from a health perspective. So we identify hospitals within the UK and hospitals within Zimbabwe and look there.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to continue on with the slides here so we can get on to the presentation. Right now, it's time for Jim Doyle to do his presentation. He's actually been participating in Coffee Connect for 5 years now, and he's done presentations here several times before. You said this, you met Rodney in 2020, and his presentation is about finding positivity in a weird world. I'm going to stop sharing and you can share your slides.
Okay.
Let me figure out where the stop sharing button is. Come on, where did it go? I have literally...
Mine are coming up now if everybody can see them.
Now I can.
Yep.
Now you can? Okay. So my pleasure to be here today. It's really an honor. I appreciated Brian's kind comments. We spent some time working together with St. Jude Medical before that company was acquired by Abbott Labs. I really appreciate Rodney's putting me on the program today and for his wonderful job at making graphics. I was telling Jeff that I've been impressed over 5 years. I don't come to the meetings all the time. But I do appreciate Rodney's ability to take and put together a visual that kind of describes the person's talk that's coming up. So on the screen, this it's a jigsaw puzzle. I think the pieces are going to be for each of us to figure out in our own life how we want to make this thing really work. If you read the invitation that was on the original announcement that came out, under the About section, and I'm just going to read it to you again, it said, have you ever found yourself asking, how do I stay positive and productive in a world of uncertainty, divided by misunderstanding, filled with conflict, increasingly costly, and becoming weirder? Brian and I share the tragedy that happened this last weekend in Minnesota. And if there's ever an example of how the weirdness is taking shape in the world, I think that's it. It's unexplainable. Most of us are just left with a zillion kind of questions. So that's the background. You'll notice on the screen, there's a book cover from my book called Hope for Life. When the book first came out, I talked about that 4 or 5 years ago. So you can pick up a copy of that on Amazon.com and or get a Kindle copy. Later, probably around July 1st, a friend of mine is launching a brand new magazine, online magazine called The Happiness Quarterly. And I'll make sure everybody gets a copy of it because there will be 9 other people beside myself who have written an article. But I think what's interesting about it is, all of us need happiness in life. And as we kind of get into the talk today, it's going to be fun to hear from you, your perspective on finding it. So look for that probably in the next couple weeks or so. So let's go ahead and get started. My little guy up here, it could be a gal, I guess. You can see the cartoon character with the clouds coming out. These are the things we're going to talk about today. I think a little bit like Rodney, what I've prided myself on over the last few years is finding visual ways to bring words kind of to life. I found it interesting that Jeff's daughter, Kudos, just graduated from the University of Minnesota, and I think her secondary degree was going to be in teaching English to underprivileged people. The English language is very, very interesting, and we all know, and I say this in seminars that I do with manufacturing all the time, as a frontline supervisor, it's easy to get lost with the idea that we're famous. And we're famous because at some point, maybe during the day, during the course of a week, sitting around the kitchen table, there's a conversation that goes on, and it goes something like this: "Hey, honey, grandpa, how was your day at work?" And it's that follow-up now of a person describing the relationship that they have with their supervisor. So what I tried to do in this talk is simplify an idea that I think is complex. It's rooted in some biblical time. We'll talk about that. Certainly, it's got a contemporary pop psychology to it. And as we work our way through the day today, the challenge I'm going to ask everybody is, how do you find positivity in a weird world? So here's a little bit about me. I wrote a book on coaching, this book on hope. I contributed to another book that the author asked me to write. And so that's a little bit about Jim. Anybody that wants to connect with me, the easiest way is via LinkedIn. Here's what we're going to cover today, and we'll zip through this and then get you into kind of at least a small breakout discussion where you can kind of chew on the information. Being positive in a world war, not world war, that was a Freudian slip, everybody, but maybe we're headed there. We're going to talk about mindset and state of mind. They're similar, but they're distinctive. How do you embody hope, possibility, happiness for well-being? Spend a little bit of time talking about the sources of negativity. And the thing I'd like everybody to really think about is free will or free choice. We all are blessed as human beings with free will. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today comes down to the choices that we make really in life. The big takeaway here, and it's interesting that Godfrey's in healthcare and Jeff's wife is a physician. If you think about it, the invitation I'm going to extend, and it's probably more of a cautionary tale for everybody. You and I have to think of ourselves as the primary caregiver of our own well-being. And part of the question we're going to kind of work on at the end is, what does that mean for you? It's something you can't delegate to somebody else. Some people unconsciously give up their well-being and empower other people to have power over them. And the minute that happens, the world kind of really shifts. So that's the visual, that sweatshirt that says caregiver, and think about that as, okay, for me, how do I really step up into the moment and really be accountable for my well-being? That's what we're going to kind of talk about today. I'll give you some tips, techniques, a little science. that very practical and again grounded kind of in some what I think are good visuals. I thought we could start with kind of three statements around worldview. You maybe have heard these before, but they're impactful for me. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "Life is what you make it. Always has been, always will be." So those of us that are a little not quite that old to remember Eleanor Roosevelt, but we maybe have heard that before. Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, who I grew up watching, "There is no normal life free from pain. It's the wrestling with our problems that can be the impetus for our growth." And then a favorite of mine, M. Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled, and some of you perhaps have read it. In the opening line of the book, he says, "Life is difficult. This is a great truth, because once it's accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters." So as we kind of work our way through this today, be thinking about your own life and how do I apply this to what's happening for me. It's interesting. Here's a definition. Here's how I came up with this weird world. No, that's not the Detroit Tigers logo, although it's pretty good. It's an Old English D, and I thought that would be appropriate today. If you go back and look into the roots and the history of weird, in Old English times, it had to do with controlling one's destiny or one's fate. But as I think about it today, if you go on and do some what does weird mean? Here are the kinds of things that you're going to see about it. We describe weird today as being odd, strange, unusual, suspicious, curious, eccentric, quirky, funky. The point that I want to make is that in our world today, as we go out with our senses, we pick up on, boy, it is really weird. There are things that are just unusual. They're hard to explain. They're things I don't agree with. They're kind of issues that are all just funky, I guess. And so that's the world that we're kind of living in. So how do we find positivity in that world? This comes from the Minneapolis Why. It's just a great definition. It's the George Wellness Center. Let's start kind of at the top. And this is kind of state of being as you're sitting here showing up this morning. The why, or the Wellness Center, defines health as the state of being free from physical injury or illness. I've had both knees replaced, and boy, for me, my life shifted and improved as I got new knees. It was kind of a living, walking hell when I was suffering all that pain, and life really shifts at that point. Wellness is the state of being in good physical health. And boy, I really, really, really appreciate that. That's something that I've got a lot of gratitude around. But look at well-being. I thought this is said so well. It's the state of practicing one's full potential for the capacity of life, mind, body, spirit. And of course, the why has an extended in the community and in the environment. So that's kind of state of being that's, I think, important for us. What's interesting to me is, and we're going to look at this in terms of both state of mind and mindset. So state of mind, and by the way, everybody, back from the world of recovery, as I'm going through this, one of the tenets in the world of recovery is take what fits for you and leave behind what doesn't. I'm not saying any of this is for you. I'm saying that a lot of what I'm saying is grounded in research and psychology and neuroscience, and a lot of it is practical experience. But take what fits for you and leave behind what doesn't. So back to our state of mind. It has to do with mental and emotional, our mood, our emotions, our perceptions, our thinking, and clearly it's situational and temporary. And with all these trials that we have, we know that an attorney is going to try to create state of mind, either from a prosecution standpoint or defense standpoint, in the jury's mind as they think about the client. Feelings, happiness, sad, angry, calm, anxious, positivity. And then they all add up to be able to influence our behavior, what we say and do, the decisions we make, the responses that we offer out there, and then again back to the choices we make. So that's state of mind, and you'll see how this is kind of got fit together in the next couple of slides. Mindset shapes the approach to life. It embodies core thinking, beliefs, attitudes, and it's got a long-term kind of perspective to it. I've done a lot of work. Well, I'd like to do more work if I could. It's hard to break into Division I football coaching staffs and the pros, but it's kind of a good old boys club in a way. If you've got a level of competence, it's easier to get in, and there are some very skilled, highly competent people working with athletes and sports teams, but it's not the easiest place to get into. But in my experience in that world, and you hear it on TV with analysts all the time, mindset of the athlete is really important. And the thing I'll just offer up, and this is Jim's perspective, we weren't, none of us, meant in life to go through life fist fighting our way through, living from crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis. Rather, we were all meant to be great. But sometimes our share of mind, state of mind can affect our mindset and vice versa. And the mindset is the big disabler for success in life. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute with how it has to do with happiness. I threw this in just because people do like research. This is from Gallup. The interesting thing is that, and I think we've known this for a while, people that have their act together from a well-being perspective, they're okay with who they are, they're comfortable in their own skin, they take accountability for their actions. Those people tend to be, better than others, the rest of the population, 50-some%, at navigating through change. And our world is quickly evolving, and who knows what the next couple of days on the world stage are going to bring, shaping the entire world. So we won't go down that path, but it's out there. So the question is, well, what's next? So Star Wars got it right. This is my grandson when he was younger, and he wanted to be Yoda. And remember, Yoda had that great line for all of us that there is no try in life, there's only do. But the Star Wars mythology had it right that we all have a force inside us that can deal with the dark side and to offset the dark side. And in fact, this is a huge takeaway. This visual of, I've come to the belief that positivity, in fact, can be turned off and on using our free will and free choice. What's interesting is about 4 years ago, I was hit by a car as a pedestrian by a 78-year-old distracted driver. I was lucky I wasn't killed. I was lucky that I didn't have major injuries. But what happened for me was 5 weeks after the accident, and I think they're correlated, but lawyers have a hard time proving it. I was diagnosed with AFib. Some people on the call may have AFib, and it's interesting. It's not a killer. AFib can't kill you, but it's the blood clots that can come out of your heart kind of fibrillating that can cause a problem. And the first couple of weeks after the diagnosis and getting on some heart medication. My whole life, I went with never taking pills, and now I've got 5 or 6 that I got to take every day. But I found myself one day in the backyard, and I was having these thoughts of gloom and doom and my heart stopping and every little twitch and this, I was thinking, is that something, and so forth. And it occurred to me in a moment of prayer, I simply asked, Lord, help me flip the switch. And so I found, and you may too, so this is a little bit of a gift, I'm giving it away to everybody. When I find difficult moments, I give myself a little pep talk and I just say, Jim, you got to flip the switch. And I move from negativity to positivity. And I found that when I do this, I can even influence my blood pressure significantly. So thank God I'm healthy, I'm in good shape, and just had a, blood, all that kind of good stuff done. Everything's normal. But what's helped me is developing a mindset of positivity. So I realize we're going through this fairly quickly, but I want to make sure we get through it and then give you some opportunity to think a little bit. I'm going to make a big disclaimer, everybody, here. And as Ringo Starr sang about, what I'm talking about don't come easy. The words like pivot and positivity and resilience, sometimes, people say, well, everybody can be that. Well, they can, but let's face it, everybody's world is unique. And I think Ringo and George Harrison had it really right in the lines and the lyrics of the song that life doesn't come easy. I gave you those three statements earlier that famous people all made kind of that statement. And what we're really talking about, everybody, is controlling in life that which we can control and letting go what we don't. So a version of the serenity prayer, if you would. And what really comes to roost in this talk is acceptance. It's something that I've personally been working on for a long time. But getting to a point in life where, hey, I may not agree what's going on with me, but once I accept it, as M. Scott Peck said, suddenly life being a crap sandwich, yeah, it's the reality of it, but I get to choose how many bites I'm going to take. Kind of a gross example, but I think you get the point there. That we're really talking about how do I get comfortable with who I am, where I'm headed, and what I have as opposed to what I don't have. And so I thought this would be kind of fun to think about food for thought. So here is that delicious looking cheeseburger, that all-American hot dog. I think the hot dog conversation's coming up pretty soon, and Joey Chipwood or whatever his name is, he'll be coming back to win the championship for the Nathan hot dogs. Maybe your favorite piece of cake or pie, coffee, getting your favorite drink at the coffee station, a salad, and hey, let's even throw in a smoothie here. All of these things, along with these things, all produce what I'm going to say moments of happiness. And they can lift us up for a while. And then when they wear off, we get back kind of to reality. And so what we're really after here, everybody, and this is the point of finding happiness, finding and living with positivity, we want to use neuroscience and develop. On the screen, you can see there's a picture of my little friend who's actually, working and developing and activating without artificial intelligence or artificial outside stimulants, feel-good hormones, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin for optimism, happiness, and hope. And the point is that we can develop physical, spiritual, and mental kind of practices along with acts of kindness, gratitude, mindfulness, and breathing to alter our state, to flip the switch, if you would, and to move from a world of craziness to a world of more inner serenity. And we all have the internal capacity to do this. And again, in the spirit of take what fits for you, leave behind what doesn't. I am a walking, talking advocate, if you would, for how powerful this stuff can be. So here's one resource I'm going to recommend to everybody. And you can go out, you can connect with Charlie via LinkedIn or just the internet. Charlie Badenhop is the founder of Seishindo, excuse me. And the purpose is helping people achieve greater sense of health, well-being, and happiness. I'm in a course with Charlie and people from all over the world right now, looking at the next phase of how do you become friends with the most important person in the world, and that's yourself. And then take that kind of guidance and extend that to relationships. But one of the things I've learned, and I'll just throw it out there and invite people to think about this, is that the most important time in our life is the here and now. We're all together this morning on this call, and the invitation I would have is that everybody is bringing your A game to this conversation, and you're not multitasking and doing other things. But through using relaxed breathing, and you can visit Charlie's website and just watch some of the videos and do some self-instruction and learn. I've developed, since the car accident and putting breathing into my process, I've developed a morning routine of about 40 minutes of meditation, relaxed breathing, and prayer just to start every day. And I feel less than when I don't get it done during the day. So I get up early and go through that kind of regiment. And with like anything in life, if you learn to use relaxed breathing, it reframes your whole perspective on life. Now, embedded in Charlie's work, he's a 30-year black belt in Aikido. And Aikido versus other martial arts, if you don't know, is more about redirecting negative energy and flowing with it versus fighting. And the idea of becoming a friend of the attacker and aligning yourself with the energy. So, for example, Charlie is recovering. He's, I think, in his third year or second year of throat cancer. And he shares the story that in the early stages, while the natural temptation is to fight it and to try to get away from it, he learned to accept it and invite it into his life. He didn't agree. He said, as long as you're here, you're here. You can stay, but my goal is to have you leave earlier, almost like a guest, a traveler. And at the heart of this then is Seisenjo is, in essence, way of the true heart and figuring out how do I get to a point where I can be in the moment, present moment, relaxed, and tap into something that Charlie talks about, somatic language. So the other thing would be, if you're not familiar with this, do a little quick little Google search. And I've got two sets of twin boys, and we learned early on that as they came into the world and even as they are today, while they're twins, they're really different, but they also share lots of things in common. We all, in the development of our womb, our body learned a way to communicate and run the system. Those of you that do traction in your companies, or you've heard about it before, it is a operating system, if you would, that runs our body. And it's fascinating to understand what the implications of that are. And in fact, our verbal language is a way to express the meaning that our body is having with the world. And you can sense this just, when you're with someone and you pick up, some of us pick up faster and more vividly a vibe from the other person about who they are, what they are, and is this someone that I can be comfortable with? That's just one little sidebar example of somatic language, those feelings that we have and learning to work with that. This is a very practical kind of practice that you can establish for yourself to help you sustain and tap into your inner ki or kai, as it is known. And it is that force that we all have on the inside. And here's what's interesting about this. If someone doesn't believe, then in all probability, this stuff is just a bunch of voodoo, hocus pocus, mumbo jumbo. It's only when we make that kind of leap of faith of saying, not only do I have certain hopes, but I have faith in my hopes, even being certain about what's not seen. And those of you that do get into the Bible, that is Hebrews 11, and we won't go there, but it's a very powerful thought to understand that, yeah, I can have faith in what I don't see, and I can work a process that I believe will help me get to where I want to go. So we're going to keep on cooking here. I put this up here as a way, I don't know about you, but I've really started to monitor my social media. I limit what I read. I limit, how much intake I have. And I think that that's really important, along with the self-talk that we all have, that conversation we have about ourselves to ourselves. So we'll just kind of keep zipping through this because I see it's a quarter two. Many of you know about emotional intelligence. This is Daniel Goldman's book. One of the things that I've come to really understand in my ripe old age here is being an observer of the effect that my behavior, my actions have on other people. And it's kind of funny. I went back and did, some research on this again. Effect is the AFF. It is the things we do to influence an outcome, and the effect are the outcomes, the experiences of that. And so Goldman was pretty right that it all begins with self-awareness and understanding, again, when is my switch flipped off, and when do I need to kind of, flip it again? So in my book, Hope for Life, I created this idea of live as a model. Let go with faith, be inspired for yourself and by others, be vibrant with a vision for life, and have energy. Really marshal your energy on the things that are really important. We know from martial arts, if you've done that, or yoga, or any sort of breathing, that what you put your attention to, your energy follows. And if it's positive, it's fantastic. It helps build us up, lift us up. And if it doesn't, it can take us back to where I like to call the life choice matrix. I'll just build this out for you. That we can either see things in life and give in, different than giving up and getting stuck, and accept what's going on with us, that allows us then to go forward, backward, sideways, around, to pivot, to make moves, to tap into our inner strength, our positivity, or we can give up, throw the proverbial life towel in. And my fear for people is that they end up getting stuck. And unlike the metaphor of wind in your sails, if you were thinking of yourself as a sailboat cruising across the waters of life, we become and bogged down with an anchor. And the choice we all have in life is, do we want to be wind in people's sails, including our own, or do we want to be anchors in people's tail? So here's a little self-assessment you can do. What am I helpful for? What am I grateful for? What inspire me in life? How can I learn to be more vibrant and to shine? Where do I get my energy? How do I keep my faith? And then how do I learn to keep the switch on? So here's our last little kind of wind up. I go on walks for all the time, and I've over 4 years found an artist who likes to put these painted rocks out for people. And throughout my 4 years of doing this, and if you're interested, you can read stories that I've got posted on my LinkedIn profile. I found different rocks at different times that really meant something to me. And I had a practice of leaving the rock each time, but I broke my practice once, and I actually took this rock and I keep it safe. And it's the idea of, may hope find you. And that's the wish that I have for each of you today. So here's the discussion question, Jeff. If we take just a few minutes and have everybody kind of think about this, reflect on it, what does it mean for me to truly be the primary caregiver of positivity in my life? My clock's got about 9:50, so we've got only 10 minutes left. So I'll throw it back to you, Jeff, to handle it. However, we can just, rather than have small group, we can have just a large group discussion, general feedback, comments on my talk, any questions you might have. And I appreciate the fact we had to go through this fairly quickly, but you've got the core content.
I'd like to get some feedback from the group. Do you want to do little breakout rooms, brief breakout rooms to discuss that topic, or do you want to have an open discussion in the main room?
Let's just do an open discussion in the main room. And if your heart opens up and you want to weigh in and say something, great. If not, that's okay too.
Right, then stop sharing and
Yep.
you can. All right. So your question here is,
what does it mean to me to be the primary caregiver of positivity in my life?
I'll start with something, Jeff. Tim and I were having a conversation in the breakout, and I just asked, how'd your second quarter or mid-year go? Typical of most people in business, you think of all the negatives, the things you couldn't do, instead of starting with the positives. And
Nice.
The positivity in your life is, are you looking at it from how am I making a difference in the world, rather than looking at all the crap that is piling up or inside you or frustrations. So when Tim described what he did, he had a fantastic first half of the year. It's not A plus, but he isn't going to go broke or homeless or anything else. And life is good. I think that's our biggest issue. Everybody right now is going, how could I do more? How could I, instead of enjoying the things that are most important to them and having that positivity.
Yeah. One of the things we try to do, I'm a job coach. I volunteer a couple days a week. One of the things we try to tell people in orientation when they come into the group for the first time is even if it's true that you came from a toxic culture and had a creepy boss, nobody wants to hear that. Try to stay positive, say this is what I did before and this is what I want to do next. Whether it's stay in the same path, or I think I want to pivot and try something else. But stay positive. Don't don't go down the rat hole. They fired me for the wrong reasons, or it didn't work out, and nobody wants to hear all of that. Stay positive.
I'm going to throw Jeff under the bus here. Jeff, you would talk about how you learned from your experiences, what you will put up with and what you will not put up with, and what you're looking for on your next movement.
You, Jeff, or are you talking in the third person?
You, Jeff. I'm going to throw myself under the bus. I get thrown under the bus all the time. It's your turn. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, no, very true. But also, to Joe's point, people don't necessarily want to hear it, at least not in certain spaces. There's a time and a place. There are psychologists, there are loved ones, there are, support groups. If you're in a community that's, if they're trying to help each other land jobs, you don't want to be thinking backward. You don't want to be living. But yes, absolutely. Our past experiences, professionally and otherwise, help shape our respective futures. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Jim, thanks on behalf of everyone as well for a great session. I actually do this for a job, so it's nice to hear from somebody else. I do acceptance commitment therapy, which I'm sure you know about.
Mhm.
Also a mindfulness teacher myself. What you said about mindset was really interesting. There's Carol Dweck, which is a very good author for this. But I think we have to remember as people that we can't control what's going on outside our own eyes, as it were. This control is something that I find many people causes complete misery. Just a bit of advice, like you saying that the only things you can control are obviously what's inside you. Whatever influence is there, we don't really have to pay it much attention. We have to question whether we're going to be happy, whether it's going to sustain us, or whether it's going to deplete our lives. And I think that's really important. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that. So thanks, Jim.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Brian. So Jim's question really hits home with me and is extremely relevant during a transition that I'm in. And I was released. My position was eliminated, and I was feeling really, had a big pity party, feeling bad about myself. And interestingly enough, and not even talking to Jim, I remember some things that Jim had said and it just got me into that better mindset with, I use self-talk. I remember life. And then I look back and said, I've been in a career for almost 40 years. And years I've had, I think, 12, 13 years. But total amount of time off of work has been less than 6 months, even counting, this current situation. So I thought, that's not such a bad batting average. And, I just tried to frame it in some way that I could get a silver lining out of the dark cloud now. And so the process of thinking through all the good things that I have done and what can I do to leverage those experiences to get that next transition role. Like, I work globally. I've worked all around the world, and handled lots of expensive machinery and challenges and process changes that that some people will never even dream of doing. So that whole part about, I mean, really the self-talk aspect is amazing and powerful for you. So I just want to kind of lay out a testament that, what Jim is saying, and that's not because he's my friend, but what Jim is saying really has worked for me countless times during transition. And I'm looking forward to the next role that I can have fun and learn something new and help people achieve their goals.
I'd love to chime in. Jeff had invited me, and it's just such an honor to get to step into a meeting like this virtually and just hear some of the things that have been compounding, that I've been hearing in other leadership meetings and things that I'm a part of in business. And so I'd say, if, like, to answer the question from the primary caregiver side, I like that concept of taking personal responsibility to renew my own mind, programming my brain with truth. I heard a quote from John C. Maxwell recently that said, I used to be goal orientated. Now I am growth orientated. To be able to learn from losses. So there's tons. There's tons that I got out of this. I like that. Keep the switch of faith turned on. Um, there's actually a David Engel song I've been listening to that literally says that, has those words in there. So
Wow.
yeah, David Engels. I think is INGELS, something like that. It kind of sounds like Johnny Cash a little bit, but it's got tons of like that gospel inspirational feel to him. But yeah, dude, it's amazing. Like, just from the emotional intelligence. So they're just being responsible for your own um, growth and separating yourself from, I think, growing in maturity to, if somebody says something, to not have to react, but to respond, to be able to disassociate from the emotions that are happening and just step back. I know that's a process. So yeah, just honored to be here. You guys are amazing. And thanks again, Jeff and Jim. Phenomenal presentation.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I'd like to just share a quote with everyone if I can. And this is from a gentleman called Francis Lucille. And he said that psychological pain is not the problem. It's actually the beginning of the solution. And that's a really good one. I've always stuck by that, and it seems to be working. Although I got married, but there you go.
Those are both you guys. That was tremendous quotes and very powerful. I definitely like the thought of focusing on growth as opposed to other things that you can target towards goals, whatever. And I was just going to say again, thanks, Jim. Great material, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you again.
Okay, thanks.
Guys, we're just hitting 11 here, and I appreciate, Jim. Thank you for doing such a wonderful job today. Thank you all for participating. I'm going to talk about upcoming Coffee Connects for just a minute. So let me share my slide again. So we have Joe talking next week. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're going to be talking about?
Yes, Data Axle is a database that is available for most public libraries in North America. And this is going to be a little bit of a Reader's Digest version of instructions that I wrote for a public library here in Northern Kentucky, just to show how to do research on companies that either you may want to work for, or you may want to work with, or you may want to have as a client, or different things like that. And there's different ways you can utilize it. But in full disclosure, the way that I typically teach it is for those who are in job search. But you can use the database in a variety of ways. And like I say, it is free from many public libraries in the United States.
All right. And in upcoming weeks, we have we don't have somebody, still don't have somebody officially scheduled for July 1st. I'll make something happen.
Jeff, maybe I could do that from Rome, you know. we can have a session from the Colosseum. What do you reckon?
Oh,
If you then talk with Rodney and make it happen, and then we have
all right, I'll have a word. That could be fun.
Jeff, you're in charge. Call the ball.
I don't I'll be in charge of anything more than I'm already in charge of. Thank you. I'm trying to delegate and give away my responsibilities so I can focus on my strengths. Anyway, and then we have Samantha Kelly on the 8th of July. And again, the website for Coffee Connect is addicted2connecting.com. Those of you that would like to have your friends join us, let them know about the website. It's got the link for the Coffee Connect Zoom meeting on it. And the password for that Zoom meeting is literally in the same place as the link. So those of you that don't know that there's a password, it's there. And if you're not on the mailing list, you can email Rodney at ccinfo@addicted2connecting.com and ask him to put you on the mailing list. If you've put your email in the chat, Rodney will see it eventually and maybe reach out to you about asking if you weren't on the list already to be put on the reminder list for this. And we've had 3 new people today, so that's something he's going to be excited about. Thank you all for coming. If you haven't, reach out to the people that you want to connect with. Aaron, I did get your email, and schedule one-to-ones with people. That's how networking, that's how you grow your network. That's how you make your relationships bloom, through your conversations.
And good looks.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Have a great week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bless
Bye,
you
everyone.
guys. Appreciate you.
Hey, Jeff.
Thank
Jeff,
you.
I've got a joke for you.
Bye.
I'm here.
Jeff, can you hear me?
We record this joke, or should I turn off the recording?
What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
There you go. Nice. All right.
Nice to see you. Tim, he's still got his throne there. Have a good day, people.
You too. I think I've heard it. Thank you.
Take care.
You too. You too. Thank you very much. And everyone, I'm going to figure out how to end this now. Where did my controls go? They've like disappeared. Oh well, when I maybe full screen there, that brought it all back. All right, I'm ending the call. Everybody have a great day.